Hey Wargamers, Josh here with Wargames Delivered, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about me and my personal journey with wargaming. I started down this path when I was about 7 years old. My dad got me started on painting models, specifically scale models. I was working mostly on historical airplanes, historical boats from the World War II time period, and lots of cars. Specifically, I liked muscle cars, I liked tuner cars, anything that was fun and made a lot of noise. Not long after that, in my pursuit of Pokemon card collections, I stumbled into a game store. It was called the Green Dragon. I bought some Pokemon cards, wandered around, and I started looking at boxes on the shelf full of miniatures for games that I had never even heard of. Games like Warhammer and Mage Knight. And I was like, what are these? These are kind of cool. They look like models, but they're just soldiers. So I asked the owner about it, and he said, hey, why don't you come back on Saturday when everybody's playing, and I'll teach you how to play. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. I'm probably 9 years old, 9 or 10, in pursuit of Pokemon cards. And all of a sudden, he's inviting me to play this game that I've never heard of. So I go back on Saturday with a bunch of my friends because I told them all about this new shop that I went into and how cool it was. Because right inside of the entrance of the front door, he had a life-size Spider-Man statue. And he was a nerd. And it was one of the first places I felt like I truly belonged in. One of the first places where I felt like, these are my people. This is where I belong. That Saturday, now over 20 years ago, is a Saturday that I still remember now. I remember running around and laughing and learning, and that was the day I bought my very first wargaming piece. It was a blind box of Mage Knight miniatures. I proceeded to collect Mage Knight miniatures for a long time after that. But I started kind of dabbling into some of the other games as well. I picked up some Warhammer Fantasy Battles. I wish I would have gotten into Warhammer 40k at the time, but I was more into history than I was sci-fi at that point, so it was really hard for me to justify buying sci-fi models. When that Saturday was over and I had gotten my games in, I went home and I told my dad all about it. And that was the day that my dad told me that he was also a wargamer when he was younger. He had stopped when he'd gotten older. Once his best friend had aged out of it, they stopped playing wargames together. So I brought my dad back into wargaming, and he played Mage Knight with me. He never liked it as much as he liked classic wargames, but he still played with me. My friends came over. We played weekly. We went to the shop. We played, every couple of days. We ended up spending most of our time and almost all of our free pocket money in that local gaming shop for years and years, until unfortunately he had to close down due to business not being as strong as it should be. Made that shop always hold a special spot in my heart. So once that shop closed down, there was no real place for me to do wargaming anymore aside from my own home. So I did. I played a lot of Dungeons & Dragons. I played a lot of Mage Knight in my house. We had a little workshop set up in the basement where my dad and I painted models. All in all, it was a great time. I slowly drifted away from wargaming and started playing more Dungeons & Dragons, as that was what my friends really wanted to play. So most of my Mage Knight miniatures got repurposed. A lot of them got repainted to be something else or personalized, whatever. I stopped wargaming, and I felt like I drifted away from it, which is pretty common. About 2015, give or take a year or so, I stumbled into a local craft store to go find some wood for a project that I was making, and I accidentally stumbled into an aisle full of miniature paints and models. Not knowing anything about modern wargaming, because I'd been out of touch for 10 years, I picked up a scale model, the B25J Mitchell. I actually converted into a piece of terrain in the last video, if you want to check that out. I'll make sure it's linked in the description below. So it took me from 2016 to 2023 to finish up the first model that I picked up when I got back into the hobby. Now, I want you to know that that was not case typical. And that one was a special circumstance because I accidentally lost pieces when I moved houses once upon a time, but that's neither here nor there. I slowly started building models again. I went from building models to building dioramas. I went from building dioramas to building big set pieces because I had a lot of fun. One day, my friend called me up and he said, "Hey, I just got a new house. I want you to come visit." I said, "Okay, cool, man. I'd love to come see your new house." So I show up and we were just sitting there reminiscing. Him and I had been friends since we were in kindergarten. He was one of the people that I dragged with me to the local game shop that first Saturday. And he was arguably one of the people who played the most war games with me. I went up to his house and we were just kind of hanging out, talking, laughing, and he asked me if I remembered playing war games as a kid, and I was like, "Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I just started recently building scale models again." And he was like, "Oh, you have to check this game out. It's so much fun." And I was like, "Okay, sure, I'll check it out." Well, he pulled out a rulebook for Warcry, Age of Sigmar Warcry, and he did to wipe the floor with me for 3 games. Apart from that very first Saturday, it was the most fun I've ever had while wargaming. I stopped and bought myself a Warcry warband on my way home that night because I knew I needed one. And then I started looking into gaming. I started playing some board games. There are a lot of really great board games out there. And I knew that I was heading back towards wargaming, but I didn't really realize what was coming my way. Fast forward a couple of years, I have now painted, I don't know, I had painted a couple of miniatures, but predominantly when I had been painting was for Dungeons and Dragons, because most of my friends told me that they wanted to get a Dungeons and Dragons campaign in. So I said, "Okay, cool. Like I'll get a bunch of miniatures. I'll get them painted up. We'll have a great time." Well, I never really did get those miniatures painted up because not long after we decided to play Dungeons and Dragons again, I got invited to play a game, Warhammer, full game of Warhammer. And after playing a game of Warhammer, I knew that it was going to be wargaming or bust for me. I knew that no board game was ever going to compare in my brain, and I knew that this was where I needed to be. So I started building my very first Warhammer army, and by building, I mean acquiring, because I actually didn't build any of it for a very long time. Fast forward to 2022, COVID pandemic hits. Sorry, fast forward to 2020, the COVID pandemic hits, and it pretty much completely shuts down my ability to play any games with my friends. So I went through and started watching YouTube videos. I started absorbing painting and playing content in any way that I could, because there was no way for me to get it face to face. As I started watching these videos and looking at these awesome paid jobs that some people in this community have created, I knew that I was going to have to start building an RV. So I started looking into the various and assorted games that are out there, the game systems, and while looking for a paint set, I stumbled across Wargames Delivered as a company. And I bought some paints, signed up for their emails, and didn't really think too much of it. 2021 rolls around, and Wargames Delivered announces that they were hiring. So I apply, I get the job, and when I get the job, I realized that there is so much out there for wargaming that I have never even heard of. Things that I never knew existed. Historical wargames with beautiful miniatures like bolt action and pike and shot, and ways for me to get my historical fix and my wargaming fix at the same time. It's been an incredible journey. So when I'm asked with the question about what brought me back to wargaming, I can only answer one thing. I felt like a piece of me was missing. I felt like I missed it a lot and I never even knew. It wasn't until I started playing again that I realized how much fun I had while I was wargaming and how helpful the painting process is for me. As a random anecdote in this, I do have ADHD. Pretty heavily, pretty severely. And one of the only things that I can actually sit down and focus on for long periods of time is painting and playing. They are one thing that will always soak up my attention. It helps me organize my thoughts. It helps me stay calm, not get so worked up about things that are outside of my control, because when I'm painting, I'm in control. There's nobody that can tell me that my army is painted wrong, because it's my army. There's nobody that can tell me that that spot of blue on my US soldier is not acceptable, because that spot of blue on my US soldier is a spot of blue on my US soldier. Now, granted, I do paint the majority of my things as historically accurate as I can, but every once in a while, you gotta have a little fun, right? And that is what wargaming is to me. It's fun. It's freedom. You have the ability to make your army however you want to make it. You have the ability to paint it however you want to paint it. You can get that vision and you can see it through. And it is one of the most satisfying things when it's something that you created from scratch makes it to the tabletop and survives all the way to victory. And you know what? It's even just as satisfying to lose, because for me, the joy isn't in the win. I'm here to play. I don't care if you absolutely wipe the floor with me. I'm going to congratulate you, I'm going to smile, and I'm going to say I hope we can play again soon. And that's why I'm back. The camaraderie, the friendships, the clink of the dice, all of it. Wargaming is more than just a hobby for me. It's my passion. It is something that I love to do so much that I don't even think I've ever really put it into words before now. Thank you for listening. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit like. I know it's not the usual kind of content that we create, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a glimpse inside the curtain and into my head. So make sure you check us out at www.wargamesdelivered.com, link in the description below. Check out our Discord for how you can get entered into the giveaways. And make sure you find some time to play today, because that's what this whole thing is about. Painting and playing. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. And I will see you next time.